Social media is divided after footage shows a safari park owner being mauled by a lion after entering its enclosure in front of horrified onlookers. The video is disturbing, and if it is all there was to this story, it would have been bad enough. But there's more. In today's video, we delve into a harrowing and gripping survival story. Imagine a serene safari in Africa suddenly turning into a nightmare. This is the story of Mike Hodge, a South African conservationist who faced one of the most terrifying predators on Earth, a lion. The Marakele Predator Centre. The distressing footage mentioned before shows Mike Hodge, a British safari park owner, being savaged by the big cat at the Marakele Predator Centre in Thabazimbi, South Africa. With South Africa now being somewhat notorious for its lion hunts, the 120-acre Marakele Predator Centre was a refreshing change of pace for those who wanted to be close to the animals without killing them for sport. The Marakele Predator Centre was Mike Hodge's baby, his life work and his dream project. The park was established in 2010 by Mr. Hodge and his wife Chrissy after they emigrated from the UK. Hodge had once been a mere trader, his wife a hairdresser and shop owner. But in 1999, the couple and their 2 children moved to South Africa with only one goal in mind: to make a business out of Mike's passion for wildlife. Mike specialized in the most fearsome of them all, the mighty African lion. They started a lion conservation project in 2003 on a farm 30 kilometers from Thabazimbi, and a few years later, they relocated to the town in the Limpopo province and founded the park. In the next few years, Mike and Chrissy had transformed what had once been their little oasis in the bush into a sanctuary where abandoned cubs, injured lions, and a fair number of other wildlife found their permanent home. In 2018, their site had over a dozen big cats, including white lions, cheetahs, and 2 Bengal tigers. According to their website, guests can stay in safari tents, and each night they will be able to hear the lions roar, hyenas laugh, and jackals calling. The park's mission was simply to provide a fun, safe, and educational wildlife experience. But the park's main attraction was its lion mobile tour, guided by Mike Hodge himself. He drove the tourist-filled truck around the sanctuary among the free-roaming animals. The tour was the perfect way for tourists to get close and personal with the animals, but not too personal. Necessary precautions. You see, Mike Hodge understood the nature of the animals better than anyone. To him, they were not circus animals being raised to do backflips on command, but predators with their natural instincts intact. His playful cats that were hand-fed by him and raised on his lap were never underestimated, and guests were allowed to view them, but never feed or interact personally with the predators, the same way they wouldn't get too close to a predator in the jungle. And as friendly as the lions were, whenever Mike or his staff entered an enclosure, someone always had a loaded hunting rifle in hand, just in case. And it was this rather extreme precaution that saved Mike Hodge's life that horrifying day. The day of the incident. On the morning of April 28, 2018, the day's group of tourists, 3 married couples all the way from America, were all seated in the Lion Mobile, held safe by a cage. This way, the tourists could come face to face with the animals without risking their lives. Mike and his best tour guide, Luonzi, took the group out to explore, and the morning was everything that an African safari promised to be. They spotted bucks, elephants, and zebras, and then moved on to the more exotic watches. The ride ended with the main attraction of the park, the lions, which was what the tourists always looked forward to. The staff tied dead chickens to the roof of the cage in order to attract the ferocious beasts. The tourists then gaped as the lions climbed all over the truck, wild animals feeding just inches from their cameras. Shamba. The star of the show was Shamba, a majestic 10-year-old male lion that Mike had hand-raised himself. The biggest of Mike's lions, Shamba was found as the lone surviving cub of his litter. He was bottle-fed by Mike and Chrissy and even allowed to sleep on their laps. His reputation was legendary, and Mike's handling of the lion was nothing short of awe-inspiring. Guests are told on the website that Shamba will jump up and look you in the eyes on lion mobile tours. Mike also liked to entertain the visitors by entering the enclosure, feeding Shamba by hand, and showing them how he loved a scratch behind the ears. This was what happened that eventful day too. The incident. After Shamba was done with his chicken meal and had climbed off the truck, the staff tried to lure him away from the tourists by using meat to entice the animal. But Shamba was not quite his usual self that day. Apparently, a badger had made its way into Shamba's enclosure the night before, leaving its scent everywhere and putting Shamba on the edge for the rest of the day. While the staff were calling out his name, he kept sniffing around the grass at the musk of last night's intruder, and then, perhaps finally convinced by the idea of meat, started to walk away from the truck. With the lion heading away, Hodge got off the truck and walked a few feet into the enclosure to open the camp's gate before they headed out like he normally does. He's seen in the video kicking something on the ground, but it doesn't take him long to realize something's wrong with the big cat. Against his well-maintained reputation, Shamba suddenly turned away from the meat and bounded towards Hodge. Hodge recognized the uncharacteristic growl, which was not how his favorite animal usually jumped at him in excitement and bolted towards the gate for his life. And he might have made it, had he been a decade or so younger, but Mike Hodge was in his early 70s and it took a mere 3 seconds for Shamba to close the distance between them, ramming him into the gate with full force. The lion pulled him to the ground and bit down close to the neck. Then the lion dragged Mike's limp body further into the enclosure as if he weighed nothing at all. Inside the truck's cage, the tourists are screaming and yelling. One girl who is watching the attack is heard crying in horror as another man shouts for someone to get a rifle. The lion briefly dropped his prey in the grass and backed off a few feet as Hodge writhed there. But it was only briefly. Shamba grabbed him again and pulled Hodge behind a bush, out of the camera frame. Several warning shots were fired by the staff, which initially scared Shamba, but the predator remained near its prey, who lay on the ground as still as dead. Finally, in a desperate attempt to save the life of their boss, a ranger was forced to shoot the large cat dead. The staff then rushed over to Mike, who miraculously was still conscious, and even instructed them on how to evacuate the tourists. His jaw had been broken from being rammed into the gate and his neck and back gashed in several places. He was airlifted to Johannesburg in an hour, accompanied by Luonzi and his daughter, where he underwent surgery. He also required more than 100 stitches for the many gashes all over his back and neck. But the wound that ran deeper than those gashes was the sudden aggression and subsequent death of the lion he had once fed from a bottle. Despite his physical recovery, the traumatic ordeal certainly took a toll on Mike and his family. Social media backlash. The video of the attack, which went viral, prompted a row on social media, with critics questioning why the lion had to be shot when it had followed its instincts as a predator after Mr. Hodge entered its enclosure. Some could not fathom why the man would enter the enclosure, while others questioned why he had ventured so close to the big cat. Attacks like that on Mike Hodge, while rare, are a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of wild animals. Mike's story serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between humans and wildlife. You'd think this would be enough for Mike Hodge to call it a day and retire, but no, the Hodge family still remains there, providing a sanctuary for the very animals that almost took Mike's life. His harrowing experience did not deter him from his mission. Instead, it strengthened his resolve. And that brings us to the end of today's video. We hope you found Mike's story as compelling as we did, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.